everyone. This is Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my show where sometimes I have a guest, and honestly, most of the time I do because it's a lot more interesting talking to somebody else about movies than myself. And I go to my giant watch list, randomly pick something, play some movie roulette, and we just go with it. And joining me is my pal Corey, who agreed to do this. And well, we landed on something interesting. Corey,
Yeah, we
thank you
did.
so much for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on. I'm excited about
A-
this one.
Absolutely. And here we'll be talking about the 1963 short film Chagall. And this film is directed by Lauro Venturi. And this film's from France. In the French version, it is narrated by Claude Dopin. But here, the English version, we
Heck
get
yes.
Vincent Price, which I will listen to Vincent Price anything talking about literally anything. So that was really a big selling point for me. This focuses on the work of Marc Chagall. This won the Oscar for documentary short film back then and was part of the Academy Film Archive preserved in 2008. But that's about all the backstory I have. So, Corey, what are your thoughts on this 25-minute documentary short film?
This was right up my alley. I feel super lucky, I guess is the word to say, that we got to watch this. I'm not the most studious of people. Schooling was not my forte, but for some reason, I'm definitely a creative person, but
Mhm.
art history, like when I was in college, art history just clicked for me, and I just loved art history. So this just felt I was just so engaged with this, even though it's, 25 minutes, like you said, but I
Yeah.
just fell in love with it. And on top of that, as you said, it's Vincent Price narrating, so it's fantastic. But I just loved learning about an artist that I honestly hadn't heard of,
Mhm.
in Marc Chagall. But there was definitely points in this documentary where they stood out to me. I mean, when it does like a really nice like establishing shot of like his studio, I am
Mhm.
somebody that absolutely romanticizes the idea of having a studio like that, where it's just
Mhm.
bright white walls, large windows. You got just the chaotic paintings on the walls and everything like that. And what really stood out to me was on his shelf, he had a photo of a oh my gosh, I'm drawing such a blank on the name because I'm so excited about it. But he had this famous painting that I
Mhm.
love the artist. I'm gonna have to look it up as we go, and then I'll just spit it out halfway through this. But I fell in love with it, and I think a lot of the works that he did were fun. I'm definitely of somebody that I say that I love like Baroque art, and
Mhm.
I love um a lot more of like the Italian like realism and things like that in a lot of cases. Um, but to see like he's got this like Russian surrealist cubist really
Mhm.
is a lot of fun to look at, and I think it does a lot more for you to kind of pull different themes that I don't think necessarily Chagall intended. Um,
Mhm.
there's one piece that came up, and afterwards I did kind of go through because I wanted to find out more about some of the artwork that he did,
Mhm.
and there was one that he had, and it's called the Blue House. And it's this really cool painting that he did of almost like a blue shack, really, in
Mhm.
the foreground, and in the background you get this large white and red city, and I think the contrast in that painting itself was so great. I interpreted it as, this clash of classes. So you get the like the white and the royal reds and everything like that, this more upper class, this more, posh, if you will, kind of city overshadowing this, small blue shack, the lower class, things like that, and just the
Mhm.
battle between that. I don't know if that's necessarily what he intended, but that's the way that I took it, and I was just really impressed with it. But overall, there was a lot of great artwork that he did, and I had a lot of fun really learning about Mark Chevalier.
Well, and this is such like a deceptively simple film in
Right.
terms of what it's doing. Like there's only a very brief segment where like you see Chagall doing what he's
Very
doing
true.
that like sprinkles in a little more than halfway through the film. But the vast majority of it is just camera on paintings and narration.
Hmm.
And when you have the right narrator, they can sell anything. And having somebody like Vincent Price, who just he had such a unique voice,
He
like
really did. Yeah.
to the point where like he has one of the most, and like I know you're a big music person too, like he has one of the most iconic voiceovers in a song ever because of Thriller.
Right.
And just oh my god, that is like dark demented poetry. His reading in the song Thriller, and it's the way the
I was just gonna say, there's something about a Vincent Price lisp that is
yeah,
just amazing.
that role of the thriller of it all. And here he's taking us through and how the camera work is done with Venturi directing this. It's very like the closest I think I could think of is like very Ken Burns. Because
Mm-hmm.
like if you've ever watched any Ken Burns documentaries, like he's done things about the Civil War and like baseball through the decades, and like they didn't have video.
Yeah.
Like you were lucky they had photos. And it's the way that the camera moves across the photos. And there's these nice push zoom ins during this short film. And how the camera is engaging with the pieces as Vincent Price is engaging with the pieces. And I just really appreciated like that kind of dynamic that he was
Yeah.
bringing to it. And this is a 25-minute, very informative documentary about the works of this artist. And in terms of like my experience specifically with quote unquote art, like most people think like when you say art, it's paintings, it's drawings, it's sculpting, stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot of different kind of arts of music and film. Film's my art form. That's what I love most. I
Mhm.
don't I don't spend a whole lot of time like checking out like paintings and stuff like that. I was like growing up when I did pay attention to art, it was always like I'm a Picasso fan.
Okay.
Um, I could appreciate something bold and different. And I remember in I think it was first grade, we had an art project and we had to like make a painting of somebody, and I did like a Picasso version of George Washington.
Heck yeah. So it's all
And
cubist and crazy.
yeah, yeah. And like that's the kind of thing that I was into. And I appreciate like the color, the richness of Chagall's art. And like the time periods and the different kinds of things that he's hitting on
Yeah.
in his artwork. And like I have an appreciation for like growing up Roman Catholic, you see a lot of stained glass. You obviously know the works of like Michelangelo because like it's in the Sistine Chapel. It's in all the like really famous like this is your religion. And you know, I appreciate when you could like really take this dive into something. And I
Right.
feel like it's so fascinating, like a film like this would never win best documentary short film
Right.
today. Because like
It's kind of a glorified PowerPoint presentation.
well that's the thing. And like I said, this is a very simple film and it really is. It's like you were in an art history class and your professor's doing like voiceover and like let's do a little zoom in
Right.
enhance. And he just your art history professor just happens to be Vincent Price. So like that goes a
I
long way.
I'm all for that.
Because and not that I don't appreciate that the Academy highlights like political documentaries and stuff like that. I just feel
Hmm.
like there's not a whole lot of room anymore for any
Yeah.
other kind of documentaries. Because like, let's be frank here. Won't You Be My Neighbor should have won Best Documentary like by a landslide. But it's not like a Navalny kind of documentary. And like there's no way that something like Chagall would have won best documentary.
Yeah, jeez.
Obviously documentary filmmaking has come a long way. Because this is something pretty simple, but it's it's something that I appreciate, and I'm the kind of person that just loves learning.
Right.
And if I like I enjoyed the experience of learning about this art over 25 minutes. Like this was a 25 minutes well spent
Yeah.
experiencing this art and really appreciating it, because it's interesting because like I'm the kind of person, the first thing that I'm going to pick out in a film is cinematography, how the camera works, the still shots, the framing, the blocking, and all that kind of stuff. That's what makes this a visual medium. And
Right.
this is also a visual medium. It's just not dynamic in the fact that like it's not moving.
Right.
But this film makes it move,
It really does.
kind
Yeah.
of. And that's the thing. They did a really good job. Venturi did a really great job of making this art come to life. And this is like I would like to see these kinds of films of like other like artists and stuff like that, looking at their paintings and stuff like that. But this is just a winning combination of some really impressive art and the perfect narrator to bring it to life.
Yeah. It was really good. And I remember the name Caravaggio.
There you
So
go.
that's the artist, Michael Caravaggio. Michelangelo Caravaggio. Sorry, excuse me. My bad.
I don't think you could get any more Italian than that. Oh,
He's my favorite. I love Caravaggio so much. But that's for
well,
another time, I guess.
them Italians are great artists, whether it's paintings or film. Just ask Martin Scorsese, um, or a Fellini,
There you go.
all kinds of stuff, or Guido, if you're talking about the musical Nine, which is basically just supposed to be Fellini. But but I guess Corey, were there any other specific things that you wanted to talk about in terms of the film?
No, I think you really hit on the way that they interpreted a still image and were able to, in a pretty successful way, convey the actual story that
Mm,
Chagall is trying to convey. The where they're starting out in their panning shots on the piece and
mhm,
moving on. I found it engaging, and as Vincent Price is talking about the backstory, the history of why this kind of, if you will, painting came to fruition and what kind of sparked it. I think the simplicity of the camera moving did an excellent job complementing that and telling that story really well. Um, so yeah.
I think the last thing that I just wanted to bring up real quick, because context wise, Vincent Price, well, Vincent Price had just been like he was in around this time, The Last Man on Earth and The Mask of the Red Death. And he was in some, he was just in The Raven, The Tower of London, Tales of Terror. He did a lot of shit. Like he was in a lot of movies on The Pit and the Pendulum. He was doing like
That's
five,
a good
six
one.
movies a year. Um, I think the first time I ever saw Vincent Price was in the Ten Commandments. Because I think he's one of the he's one of the Egyptians, which yes, Vincent Price, 100% Egyptian. But you also
Wait,
have
he's not?
You also have E.G. Robinson as one of like the Jewish people there, and he's just like, yeah, she. Uh, and also Charlton Heston playing a Jewish man. Um, very not.
Wow.
But Vincent Price was at like the peak of his career at this point, and them getting him to do this narration is so great. And I think there's a couple of moments where they did like the hard push and zoom, and he gets like intense talking about what's going on. I'm just like, oh, this like this is getting intense. It's coming
Yeah.
to life, and it's just like I wasn't expecting that. Like a bunch of still images of art for 25 minutes. They did a really Venturi and Price did a really great job of bringing some life to this and
Yeah.
everything. So, but yeah, so yeah, this is what we randomly landed on, and I'm glad that it really struck a chord with you, Corey. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, had a blast with this one. Thank you. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
so Corey is becoming a frequent collaborator now here on the SPDM crew. You should check out some of his episodes. I know at least one of them with comes the music on Mix CD.
Hmm.
So, but most importantly, thank all of you out there for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. Who's your favorite artist, outside of movies? Because, this is a movie podcast, but, taking a look at paintings, sculptors, all kinds of stuff like that. And make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network has a lot of great shows. I have 5 movie podcasts on this now. So enjoy. And we have music and sports and physical media and comics. And you could just chat life with Luke, which is always a blast too on Flicks and Chill. And thank you, HiFlyer Creative, for our great logo. If you're in need of any kind of logos, go check them out. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.